So today we're going to be talking about working as a business analyst, but working with Excel. So here's a number of things that we have. Let's do, sorry, okay. So we have a lot of things that we do in Excel, which are outside the realm of a document that you're used to, right? So I just want to show you some examples of how we use Excel, because I want it to be free to feel like this is acceptable. Like when you go into your job, you don't want to be like, okay, am I supposed to be doing it in Excel or not? It's generally okay to do it in Excel and have them say, oh no, we do this in a different tool. Okay, fine, we can do it there too. Or if they tell you ahead of time that this is a tool we use, fine. But in general, it's better to do something and then, ask for permission later or forgiveness, depending on what it is, than to not do anything, right? So I find a lot of BAs, one, BAs don't ask questions enough when they're new, and two, they're too timid. Be bold, take a stab at it, do something, and then show it, and then get feedback and iterate over it to make it better. It doesn't have to be the best the first time. Work in progress is better than no work at all, right? So you get started and you can refine together. So let's look at this first one here. So this is an example of a go live checklist. What is a go live checklist, you might ask? So a go live checklist is just something project managers like to use to check off everything that needs to happen before you can actually put this feature out into the public, right? So this is just, and this is what I mean by knowing how to format an Excel, right? So you have a merged column at the top that just says checklist initial project, right? And then we have another column, which is whether it's completed or not. We have a task. By the way, I'm OCD, so this is black. It should be white. I'm going to have to change it right now. Oh, I want to change the text to white, not the background. Okay. And then timing before go live, related documents, and any comments. So now you have a link to your documents. You have all the different tasks that need to happen, which is make sure all employees are certified, aware and implemented presentation go live with user base. Make sure user base is the name of the tool. Make sure you have the right environment. Make sure you have one go live experience backender, DevOps, PM, so in case of anything going wrong in the go live process, that they're available and they're able to know more about the project. Make sure you have the right integrations. Check if all employees have the right training. Share content and expectation about the secure SDLC. All of this stuff that you need to do. And these are normally project management stuff, but imagine how helpful it is to have a checklist like this to make sure as you're going through the process, you can check off all the things that are done that need to be done for you to get out there to your customers. And then we have the time, like how many times before go live does this need to be done? 6 weeks. It needs to happen on like continuously. 16 weeks, 12 weeks before, 1 week before, etc., right? So this is like a master list of all the activities that need to happen before we get to go live. And it's so simple, and it might be something that is being done anyway, but maybe you get into the company and they don't have a single point of truth like this. How valuable would it be if you as a BA could help them create this? So what I mean, and it's something that you don't need to learn a new tool for. You already have the tool. It's just a matter of where does the information lie and how can you put it together. So I guess the point I'm making here is that there's so much added value you can bring with just creating simple Excel documents. And if you learn how to format them, for example, it's not just a running list of everything, right? They have sections. So this is arrange and a prerequisite, arrange prerequisite. And then this section is in darker color than this. So this is like a subsection, but it's ordered by color. You could even have things in green, like say as soon as they're checked off, maybe you conditionally format it to turn the whole row green. You know what I mean? So things like that is very, very helpful, very, very useful. And if you can collaborate in a document like this with other people who are involved in the go live, that would also be helpful. So just calling out that these are the kinds of documents that help projects be successful, that you as a BA can create almost effortlessly. and it's very helpful, right? The other one I want to call out, show you, is this one. So this is one that is a refinement, notes, and action. And this was a lifesaver for me. You hear me? Lifesaver. Now, why would that be? Because imagine you're on this huge project that has so many teams, so many people, so many requirements. You're building an entire banking system. There is retail banking, there's login, there's authentication, there is onboarding, there is senior accounts, there's adding a new account, there is senior checks, there's having recurring payments, there's imagine everything you do in a banking application today and building that from scratch. It's a nightmare, okay? So being able to have, whenever we go through each of the features and there's a takeaway that we need to go think about, we need to come back with a solution for, there's whatever reasons, right? We have all of these action items, but it's very easy for things to fall through the cracks. Very easy, because every time we meet, every week, we have new things to discuss. So the things that happened last week, sometimes it doesn't get resolved in a week. Sometimes you have to go through regulations. Sometimes you have to go through different departments. You have to go through legal. You have to do all this stuff. It may not be done by the time you meet again. So if you meet again and you have new stuff, then the things that you had from last week can easily fall through the cracks. And we don't want that, because that's going to make our project delayed. So we came up with this format that just said, this is the date we're discussing it. This is the item we're discussing. This is, who's responsible, BA, and this is a drop down. So also just knowing when to make it easy for somebody to fill out a form. If it's something that the values are always going to be static, make it into a drop down. Don't have them type it in. Simple things that make you a superstar, okay? This is the description of the problem we're having. This is the action item. This is the notes that we're going to do. This is who's going to own it, so who we need to come back to. But look at the amount of things that needed to be done every time we met in our refinement sessions. Who could keep up with this? We don't want to have emails flying everywhere. We don't want to have to be in chat messages, which that was happening anyway, right? Emails are flying anyway, and chat messages are going out anyway. But the BA being the owner of a document like this, that would help to make sure you're tracking everything. And what we would do is we would come in here every time we met, tracking. See what I mean? So now, if it's done, we mark it as done, and we never have to talk about it again because the task is done. But every week, we go back through everything that's outstanding to remind people, to make sure the progress is being made on those things, to keep an update. So it doesn't fall through the cracks, because if you're the only BA running on these larger projects, a lot of things to keep up with. You cannot keep up with it in your head. So and this is something you can share. You share with your POs, you share with your management. They can see what you're doing. They don't have to be pinging you, asking you what's happening on this front, what's happening with the payment processor, what's happening with, the wire transfers. Nobody got to ask you, hey, it's on the refinement documentation. You can see the last update last week. We had Rachel to test that the payments feature is back online, and that's where we left it. And it might be also in the user story, right? So it would be for you to be able to blend the user story, the chat messages, the emails, and try to create a single source of truth. I typically have the user story as my source of truth, right? So even though we discuss here and I mark it here, I would still add a comment in the user story to say Rachel is going to retest and assign this ticket to Rachel. That's fine. But some people don't have access to Jira and don't even know how to find the story, because you have to know the ticket number and all that stuff. But everybody can access Excel. So it might seem like double work, but the benefit of doing it this way, where everybody can access this tool, everybody can access this page, this Excel sheet, invaluable. Save you time and effort, save you follow-up. It saves you in so many ways. Look, this is golden. Okay, this is golden. And as you can see, it went on for miles. Every week we talked about this stuff, every week. And some of these things they've been working on it for months. Yeah. So that's just another example of how we can use Excel to help us to be more successful as BAs. I have a couple more, so let me go through before the time runs out. This is just an example of example of this exporting from Jira. So if you're working in Jira, and I think also in Azure DevOps, I need to go test this, but you might be working in Jira and you have all these tickets and you need to create a graph that doesn't exist in Jira. One of our technique boutiques, I want to show you how to do dashboards in Jira and how to create these charts and graphs and these pages that show useful information. So we're going to get to that. So you can really make the best of Jira. So Jira does have dashboards and it does have filters that you can create. But sometimes the data that's coming out of there, you want to use it in other ways, or you want to merge it with other data. So you can export from Jira into Excel, and then you can make different, you can use the data in different ways. Delete the columns you don't need. Maybe you don't care when it's created, so you can go in here and just go delete that, right? You can add columns that you need, whatever. So you can manipulate and use the data however you want, getting the output from Jira. If you have to blend different outputs to put them all in Excel, use the fields that you want, remove what you don't want, and then make your analysis over that in Excel. I find that to be much more easy to do. So that's another example of how we use Excel. Here is another one. This one is, again, so simple. This one is just a leaf planner, which you can download anywhere. There's so many of these. So this is an example of a leaf planner. So we're all working on this project, and we need to make sure who's going out which day. So this is another one, what I mean about being able to format it properly, right? It would make sense to have, so this is April, May, June, so per month. So this one has each tab per month. I even think that you could make it much easier to show it all on one page, but this is how they chose to do it. So you merge the cell up here for the year, and then each of the columns, you just make the columns smaller, and the columns represent the days of the month. And then you say, okay, who's going to be off which day? And then you add up. So this is like 8 hours. So this person is off for the month, 16 hours, 48 hours. So just being able to use the formulas properly. And if you notice, they put these areas in gray, Saturdays and Sundays are in gray. So making it look good, making it look presentable, making it look neat. I find sometimes people just throw things on Excel. They don't care about the color. They don't care about the size of the rows. Like, this is very uniform. Each day has the same width, which makes it look very, very neat, right? Look like something you could print and check off. So I don't know. I'm very snobbish about Excel that doesn't look good, because I feel like all you need to do is just drag a column. It's not hard, right? So the Excel sheets need to look appropriate, and so that people can look at them and make sense of what they're looking at. And that's how we go. So this is just an example of a leaf planner, which if the company doesn't have, fine, you can help them by having it. Here's another one that we do as BAs, but we do this in conjunction with our developers, right? So this is an estimation sheet. And after a while, when you're working as a BA, maybe not your first job, but after a while, you'll be asked to help the team to determine the estimates. So it's something that the project managers do also, so it won't be solely your responsibility, but sometimes you may be asked to create the Excel sheet that they can then use to plug in the estimates, right? And this is how much effort from a back end, FE's front end. So this is the people that design the UI. Everything you see on your screen, we call those front end. And then the back end is all the things happening in the back to allow the front end to show what it shows. So all the API calls, all the calculations, all the computations in the back to display on the screen, that's the back end, right? So we have front end, we have mobile, we have back end. So mobile is different because the front end typically refers to the web. You're designing the web experience. The mobile refers to the mobile experience. So you need to have native experience for Android phones and native experience for iOS phone. So we need a special type of developer for that. We call mobile devs. And then the QA, what is the effort for the quality assurance person to test it? And then this is the total. So typically when we do estimations, right now it's 0 because we didn't fill it in. But typically when we do estimations, this is the kind of sheet that they want to see. Something that clearly shows the type of developer and what feature and how, in this case, it's just low or high. Right, we're not trying to, because estimate is also just estimate. It's not supposed to be exact, right? So we're just giving a ballpark, a feeling, and sometimes it's enough. It's enough for us to work with. So yeah, So in this example, as again, being able to format, I'm going to say it over and over again. The formatting is very important because if you just throw things on the screen, nobody can follow it. So you need to make sure you stretch out the column wide enough to see all the details. You make these small enough so you can compare them side by side. You freeze the first couple rows so you can scroll without losing the top. You see what I mean? All of these little things that people sometimes don't think about, it's very important. Very, very important. And then look, from here to here, it's grayed out, so you can kind of pay attention to that more. Something here is in yellow means something different, right? So just being able to think about it and present it like this. This is something I can then share with management. I can share with product managers. They can clearly, without me being there, they can see what I'm talking about. And it's very important to be able to do things like that. Let's look at data mapping. This is one that you're going to do if you do an implementation project. So when you are implementing a new feature or a new product, you need to know, okay, the data we have over here, we're going to pull this data from this source and put it over here in this source. So how do you show that in an Excel document? Well, it sometimes just look as simple as this, which means these are the fields that we have. And you get this field from talking to your software architects, right? These are the fields we have in this system. And we're going to convert it to this system called TSYS. By the way, all these files are in your back office club folders. They're kind of in different folders, so I can share with you. But you already have access to all of them. You want to go deeper to look at them, right? But in this case, user base is the existing system, and the new system is TSYS field. So we're saying that in user base, it's called total count. In TSYS, it's called user notification preference dot count. Right? So it's a mapping. This field goes to here. This field goes to here. This field goes to here. It's just 2 columns. That's all you need most of the time, right? Of course, you can add notes or other details if you want, but this is a typical example of what a data mapping sheet looks like when you're comparing data from one system to the next. And a BA typically creates this in Excel or sheets, Google Sheets, right? Very, very easy to follow. You just need to, align the columns properly, and it's really a no-brainer. Very easy. Okay, we're almost out of time. Let me show you a little bit about presenting stuff. So one of the things I've found is that the BAs sometimes, after they've done the work, they don't present it as clearly. So here's an example of how you can take your Excel sheet, right? And you can formulate it in a way that makes it very consumable when you present it. So we were working on a number of different features, and one of the problems that we had in this particular case was we had lots of customers that was giving us direct input. They're telling us, we want this feature, we want this feature, we want this feature. And I was a product manager at the time, and it was difficult to kind of prioritize which client. We normally did the things that the biggest client asked for, but it wasn't like everybody was using it. So we're just trying to please this one, a few big clients, and everybody else was suffering. So I wanted to bring out, when I'm presenting the features that we've just built in our demo, to call out what are the things that we've actually worked on. Because it's very easy for you to be in the grind every day, just working. But how can you show what you're working on? So in this graph, which I did through Excel, was to say when I exported all the tickets from Jira, I was able to pull up this thing that says, of all the features we worked on, we spent the most time on this feature, which we call Goa. We spent the most time on maps, spent the most time on another feature called RGI. We had some technical debt. So now you're not just seeing me demo something, but you're getting a sense of how we spent our time over the last 2 sprints. Do you know what I mean? But this is coming from data that I was able to put together from Excel. But these are some of the things that would be great. And I put it in a pie chart, although it doesn't show very well here. The color was off. But I also have it in a graphical way so you can see that, right? And then how many of it was actually new development that we planned, that we had it scheduled, and how many of it was stuff that came up, like urgent, that we had to drop everything and focus on, because we had that problem where in the middle of the sprint, people are just saying, oh, this is urgent. We got to fix this right now. We have a bug issue. We have the production issue. And so we drop everything to work on that, and that caused us to be delayed. So we now can show you, hey, we're making a little bit of better progress. Where last year, half of what we worked on was unplanned, which is not good, meaning that it's just random things coming in. Whereas this year, we're a little bit more better in terms of making sure that we're doing what's planned and trying to focus on that and not as much ad hoc things, right? And then these are some of the clients that was like driving what we work on. And we could see that a big part of it in this case was Fujitsu, which is a big client of ours, Siemens, a big client of ours, Enterprise DB, a big client, Capgemini, a big client, you know. So these bigger clients were just driving our production, our development, and we're just running behind them, trying to make them happy, right? So just having these kind of graphs is what I mean, that you pull from your Excel and then you present them because it's meaningful for the audience. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about when I say knowing how to present. All right, so there's a few other things in here. I'm going to stop for now. Here's an example of how we can use Excel to create like just a bug tracking list. The whole thing here is Excel. So we hid all the grid lines. You know, we created the graphs from the different tabs and we pasted them into the tab that had no lines. So it looks like an application, but it's actually Excel. All this stuff is Excel. All right, so I'll leave it there for now. What I wanted to do was to share with you how business analysts use Excel and to impress on you that Excel is going to be a great tool for you to be able to really be impressive and to share with your audience and to have a bigger impact as a business analyst, being able to use Excel in all of these ways. Knowing there's a part we didn't cover, which is knowing the formulas, knowing the way to like do pivot tables, all of these other things. You can learn them in Google. You can Google them. But the formatting, the type of documentation, when to use them, how to suggest using them, and be able to add value, that's the part that I think I could help you to see. And I hope I did that today. So thank you very much for joining. And thank you so much.